Have you ever looked at someone smiling and felt deep down that they were hiding something? Have you ever wondered why people pretend to be kind but quietly crave control? Or why those who suffer the most often appear the strongest? Nietzsche, one of the most misunderstood philosophers in history, believed that beneath every mask, every smile, and every word, there are truths about human psychology most people never dare to face. Today, you're going to learn 18 truths about human nature that will change the way you see yourself and everyone around you. Nietzsche lived in the 19th century, but his psychology feels strangely modern, almost as if he were describing the hidden battles inside our own world today. Social media, fake friendships, silent suffering. Nietzsche didn't see Instagram, but he saw human masks. He didn't know about toxic positivity, but he knew the danger of hollow optimism. His core idea was simple. If you want to awaken, if you want to live as your truest self, you must stop believing appearances. You must look deeper. You must learn to read people, not just by their words, but by the motives beneath them. This isn't about memorizing quotes. It's about seeing the world through a new lens. So let's begin. Nietzsche once wrote, "Every profound spirit needs a mask." Why? Because humans are afraid to show who they truly are. Think about it. At work, we put on the mask of professionalism, even when we're exhausted. With friends, we wear the mask of happiness, even when we feel broken inside. Online, people post pictures of perfect lives, while their real nights are filled with loneliness. Nietzsche teaches us this: don't take people at face value. A smile can hide despair. A compliment can hide envy. A joke can hide pain. But here's the deeper layer. Nietzsche didn't say masks are bad. In fact, sometimes masks are necessary. They protect us. They help us survive in a world that's often cruel. But the tragedy comes when someone forgets they're wearing a mask and loses touch with their real face underneath. Relatable example. Maybe you've had a friend who was always the funny one. They made everyone laugh, but when you looked closer, you could see the sadness in their eyes. That's a mask. How to apply this truth? The next time you're around people, don't just listen to their words. Watch the pauses. Notice the tension in their voice, the hesitation before they answer, the moments when their smile doesn't reach their eyes. That's where the real story lives. Awakening means seeing past the mask and gently asking yourself, what might this person be hiding? Nietzsche's most famous psychological insight is the idea of the will to power. At its core, it means this: every human action, big or small, is driven by a desire for strength, control, or influence. It doesn't mean everyone wants to be a dictator. It means that even simple things like telling a story at dinner, posting a picture online, or giving someone advice are all ways of saying, see me, hear me, respect me, acknowledge my power. Think about arguments. When two people fight, it's rarely about the thing they're arguing over. It's about dominance. Who gets the last word? Who wins? Even in love, power hides in the shadows. Who cares more? Who gives more? Who has more control? Nietzsche wasn't trying to depress us with this truth. He wanted to wake us up. Because if you understand that everyone is seeking power, you stop being naive. You start to see the hidden motives in relationships, at work, even in your own choices. Example: have you ever noticed how a coworker gives helpful advice that actually makes you feel small? That's not kindness, that's power. Or maybe someone you know constantly plays the victim. That too is a form of power, gaining sympathy, attention, and control by weakness. How to apply this truth? Start asking yourself, what power is this person seeking right now? It doesn't always mean manipulation. Sometimes it's innocent, a child crying for attention, a friend telling a story to feel valued. But once you see it, you can read people in ways most never do. The will to power is everywhere, in business, in romance, in politics, even in the way we dress. Recognizing it doesn't make you cynical, it makes you awake. Nietzsche's psychology is often called dark, but it's actually full of hope. One of his most powerful truths is that suffering is not a curse. It's the greatest teacher. Most of us are taught to avoid pain. We think life should be about happiness, comfort, and ease. But Nietzsche flips this upside down. He says, suffering is not the enemy. It's the path to strength. Why? Because pain strips away illusions. When you suffer, you discover who your real friends are. You learn what truly matters. You gain resilience, depth, and empathy that comfort could never give you. Think about people you admire most. Chances are they didn't become strong by living an easy life. They became strong because they endured hardship and transformed it into wisdom. Nietzsche once said, "To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." This is not about romanticizing pain. It's about recognizing that the scars you carry are proof of your survival. And survival is power. Relatable example. Maybe you've gone through heartbreak. At first, it shattered you, but months later, you noticed. You see red flags more clearly. You value yourself more. You understand love more deeply. That's suffering as a teacher. How to apply this truth. Instead of asking, "Why me?" in times of pain, try asking, "What is this teaching me? How is this shaping me?" That shift turns suffering into growth. Nietzsche believed that the strongest souls are not those who never suffered, but those who suffered and came back stronger with a deeper understanding of life. One of Nietzsche's most surprising insights is this: what people show as their greatest strength is often built to cover their deepest weakness. Think about it. The brave person who laughs at everything may actually be terrified of being vulnerable. The perfectionist who never makes mistakes may secretly fear being seen as inadequate. The overly generous friend who gives too much may be hiding a fear of abandonment. Nietzsche believed that strengths and weaknesses are not opposites. They are shadows of each other. In psychology today, we call this overcompensation, but Nietzsche saw it long before modern psychology gave it a name. Example: the loudest person in the room often feels the smallest inside. The one who constantly seeks to save others may feel powerless in their own life. The one who boasts of independence may actually fear being unloved. How to apply this truth? When you see someone's dominant trait, ask yourself, what wound is this protecting? If someone insists they're always fine, maybe they're not. If someone always tries to control everything, maybe it's because they feel deeply insecure. This truth doesn't mean judging people. It means understanding them. And with understanding comes compassion. Because once you realize that people's strengths are often armor for their wounds, you'll stop envying them and start seeing them as human, just like you. Nietzsche was ruthless about one thing. Most humans don't really want truth. They want comfort. Truth is painful. Truth is disruptive. Truth breaks illusions. And most people can't handle that. So instead, they cling to beliefs that make life easier, whether those beliefs are about love, religion, politics, or even themselves. Nietzsche called this the danger of herd mentality. People would rather move with the crowd than face uncomfortable truths alone, because comfort feels safe. Example: think of relationships. How many people stay in toxic relationships because it's easier than facing the truth that they deserve better? How many people keep jobs they hate Because it's easier than facing the truth that they're afraid of failure. Nietzsche's point wasn't to shame people, it was to awaken them. He believed the awakened individual must dare to seek truth, even if it hurts. Because while comfort keeps you safe, truth sets you free. How to apply this truth? Ask yourself, do I really believe this because it's true or because it's comforting? This question is powerful. It cuts through illusions. It forces you to see where you're lying to yourself and where others are lying to themselves, too. Nietzsche believed awakening begins when you love truth more than comfort. And yes, it hurts at first. But on the other side of that pain is freedom, authenticity, and a life you can truly call your own. Nietzsche had a special word, ressentiment, a French term he used. It means deep, suppressed resentment. He believed this was one of the most destructive forces in human psychology. Why? Because resentment doesn't explode openly, it festers quietly. It grows in silence until it twists a person's view of the world. A resentful person doesn't just dislike others, they start to redefine morality itself to excuse their own bitterness. Nietzsche said this is how slave morality is born. The weak, unable to win openly, call their weakness a virtue and the strength of others a vice. Example, think of a friend who constantly criticizes people who are successful. Deep down, it's not about morality. It's envy turned into resentment. Or think of someone who always plays the victim, but secretly resents those who live freely. Resentment is dangerous because it doesn't just hurt others. It eats the one who holds it. It traps you in bitterness, prevents growth, and blinds you to your own power. How to apply this truth? If you feel resentment towards someone, ask yourself, what does this resentment reveal about me? What do I envy? What do I secretly wish I had the courage to pursue? Nietzsche's solution was not forgiveness in the easy sense. It was transformation. He urged us to turn resentment into fuel, to channel envy into action, to let bitterness reveal what we desire, and to use it as motivation to grow stronger. Because resentment left unchecked poisons the soul. But resentment transformed can become power. Nietzsche believed that humans can endure almost anything as long as they believe it has meaning. He once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." This is one of the most powerful psychological truths he ever gave us. Most people think they're chasing happiness, but Nietzsche noticed something deeper. When life gets hard, happiness disappears. What keeps us alive isn't joy, it's purpose. Example, a parent suffering sleepless nights to care for a newborn doesn't feel happy in those moments, but they endure because it's meaningful. A student working through long nights of study, an athlete training in pain, an artist pouring their soul into their craft. None of that is happiness. It's meaning. Happiness is fragile. It comes and goes. But meaning is strong. Meaning gives suffering a reason. And with a reason, suffering becomes bearable. How to apply this truth? Instead of asking yourself, "Am I happy right now?" ask, "Is this meaningful? Does this give my life direction?" If the answer is yes, even pain becomes worthwhile. Nietzsche believed that the emptiest souls are not those without comfort, but those without purpose. Awakening means searching not for comfort, but for meaning, even if it costs you happiness in the short term. Nietzsche was critical of what he called the herd. By herd, he meant the collective mentality where individuals stop thinking for themselves and simply follow the crowd. Humans fear isolation. We long for belonging. But Nietzsche noticed the danger. When people join the herd, they sacrifice individuality. They give up their unique voice to gain safety in numbers. The herd doesn't want truth. It wants agreement. It doesn't want courage. It wants conformity. and the one who dares to step out is usually attacked. Example: think of social media. How often do people post opinions not because they believe them, but because they want likes and approval? Or think of school days where the loudest voices often controlled the group, and anyone who thought differently was mocked. Nietzsche warned that the herd is comfortable, but it makes you small. It's easier to follow the crowd than to stand alone. But greatness never comes from the crowd. How to apply this truth? When you feel the pressure to fit in, pause and ask, am I choosing this because I believe it, or because I fear standing alone? Nietzsche believed true awakening requires courage, the courage to step away from the herd, even if you walk alone for a while, because only then do you find your authentic self. Nietzsche's most controversial idea was that much of what we call morality is really just disguised desire. He noticed that people often create moral rules not out of pure goodness, but as a way to justify their own feelings or control others. Example: someone who calls ambition selfish may not be morally pure. They may simply envy the ambitious. Someone who says wealth is evil may not be saintly. They may just resent those with money. Someone who preaches that desire is sinful may secretly be battling desires they can't admit. Nietzsche wasn't saying morality doesn't exist. He was saying that most morality is not objective, it's psychology. It's people turning their hidden desires, fears, or resentments into rules for others. This is why he often attacked slave morality, a morality born out of weakness. Instead of saying, I can't do this, people say, it's wrong to do this. That way, they turn their limitation into a virtue. How to apply this truth? When someone speaks in strong moral terms, ask yourself, what personal wound, envy, or desire might be hiding behind this? It doesn't mean morality is meaningless. It means morality is human. And if you want to awaken, you must learn to separate genuine ethics from disguised psychology. Nietzsche believed that only then can you create your own authentic values instead of inheriting the masks of others. Nietzsche had a bold view of love. He believed it was never pure in the sense people imagine. Behind every love story, there is also a story of power, desire, and need. Think about it. We don't love people in an abstract way. We love them because they fulfill something in us. Comfort, admiration, inspiration, safety, or passion. Love is always mixed with motives. This doesn't make love fake, it makes love human. But Nietzsche warned us, when people pretend love is completely selfless, they blind themselves to the dynamics of power hidden inside it. Example: a partner who constantly sacrifices may not only be kind, they may also be afraid of abandonment. A partner who tries to control may not only be protective, they may also be insecure. Even parents who often show the purest form of love sometimes unconsciously seek to live through their children. How to apply this truth? When you think about relationships, ask, what's the hidden power dynamic here? What needs are being traded? What fears are being soothed? This doesn't kill love, it makes it more real. When you understand the psychology of love, you stop expecting perfection. You learn to see both the beauty and the shadows in every connection. Nietzsche's truth reminds us, love is not angelic, it's human. And real love begins not when we deny its complexity, but when we embrace it. One of Nietzsche's most shocking insights is this: most people don't really want freedom, they want security. Freedom sounds beautiful until you realize what it costs. Freedom means responsibility. Freedom means uncertainty. Freedom means standing alone without anyone telling you what to do. And for most, That's terrifying. It's easier to follow rules, traditions, or leaders who give ready-made answers. Because if someone else decides for you, you don't have to face the weight of your own choices. Nietzsche believed this is why so many cling to authority. Whether it's governments, religions, or even peer groups, the comfort of being told what to do feels safer than the anxiety of true freedom. Example, think of someone who stays in a job they hate, not because they love it, but because the rules are clear and the paycheck is steady. Or someone who follows every social expectation, not because they believe in it, but because freedom would mean standing apart. How to apply this truth? Ask yourself honestly, do I really want freedom or do I just want safety? If you want freedom, you must be ready for the loneliness and uncertainty it brings. Nietzsche believed awakening requires courage. The courage to carry the weight of your own life, to stop outsourcing your decisions to others, and to build a life that is authentically yours. True freedom is terrifying, but it's the only way to live fully awake. Nietzsche noticed something most people miss. The greatest minds, the strongest souls, are always full of contradictions. Why? Because life itself is contradictory. To be truly alive, you must hold opposites within yourself. You must be both gentle and fierce, both rational and emotional, both hopeful and realistic. Mediocre people crave consistency. They want simple answers, clear labels, black and white. But greatness requires complexity. It requires the courage to live with tension. Example, think of artists. The most brilliant ones are often both joyful and melancholic, disciplined and chaotic. Or think of leaders who are both strong and compassionate. They live with contradictions, and that's what makes them powerful. Nietzsche believed that to awaken, you must embrace your contradictions instead of denying them. You are not one thing. You are a symphony of voices, sometimes clashing, sometimes harmonizing. And that's what makes you human. How to apply this truth? When you feel torn between two sides of yourself, don't rush to choose. Instead, ask, how can both be true? How can I hold this tension and let it shape me? Awakening doesn't mean becoming perfect. It means becoming whole. And wholeness requires embracing the messy, contradictory, often confusing reality of who you are. Nietzsche's truth is liberating. You don't need to resolve every contradiction. You need to live them and let them fuel your growth. Nietzsche had a sharp eye for hypocrisy. He noticed that when people loudly condemn something, it often hides a secret admiration or envy. Why? Because what triggers us most in others is often something we secretly wish we could express ourselves. Example, think of the person who constantly criticizes others for being selfish. Sometimes deep down, they wish they had the courage to put themselves first. Or the one who attacks others for being too bold. Often they secretly envy that boldness. Nietzsche believed that condemnation is rarely pure morality. It's projection. It's the psyche saying, I can't admit I want this, so I'll condemn it in others. How to apply this truth the next time someone condemns you, or when you feel the urge to condemn someone else, ask, what hidden desire might be living here? You'll begin to see that moral outrage is often a mask for envy, repression, or fear. Awakening means noticing the desire behind the judgment. And once you see that, you understand people far more deeply than their words reveal. Nietzsche famously declared, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. This truth is about creativity, growth, and transformation. He believed that real creation doesn't come from stability or order. It comes from chaos, destruction, and the willingness to tear down the old to make space for the new. Most people fear destruction. They cling to routines, habits, and identities, even when those identities are suffocating. But Nietzsche saw destruction not as the end, but as the beginning. Example: think of someone leaving a toxic relationship. At first, it feels like destruction, breaking apart a life you built. But from that chaos, a stronger self emerges. Or think of an artist destroying draft after draft before finally creating something brilliant. Nietzsche believed life constantly demands this cycle: death and rebirth, breaking and building, falling and rising. To awaken, you must be willing to let parts of yourself die. The old beliefs, the false identities, the outdated masks, so something truer can live. How to apply this truth? When something in your life falls apart, instead of asking, "Why me?" try asking, "What star might be born from this chaos?" Nietzsche's truth reminds us, destruction isn't the enemy, it's the soil in which creation grows. Here's one of Nietzsche's hardest truths. The strongest people don't run from pain. They choose it. Why? Because they understand that growth always requires struggle. Comfort breeds stagnation, but pain sharpens the soul. Nietzsche believed that those who voluntarily embrace difficulty, who choose the hard path, the challenge, the discipline, become far stronger than those who simply suffer by accident. Example: a writer who forces themselves to face rejection over and over becomes resilient. An athlete who trains through exhaustion becomes powerful. A person who dares to face uncomfortable truths about themselves becomes wise. Pain is unavoidable. But Nietzsche argued that by choosing your pain, by embracing challenges willingly, you transform suffering into strength. Instead of being a victim of circumstance, you become the author of your struggle. How to apply this truth? Ask yourself, what pain am I willing to choose today for the sake of who I want to become? It could be the pain of discipline, the pain of honesty, the pain of rejection. Choosing it consciously makes you stronger than running from it. Nietzsche's truth is liberating. Life will hurt you either way, but when you choose your pain, you also choose your growth. Nietzsche believed that one of the greatest human tragedies is this: most people will do anything to avoid being alone with themselves. He saw that people fill their lives with noise, gossip, distractions, entertainment, endless busyness. Not because they love these things, but because silence forces them to face who they really are. Example: think of how uncomfortable people get when they're left in a quiet room without a phone, or how someone always keeps the TV running in the background just to avoid their own thoughts. Nietzsche believed that awakening begins when you stop running from yourself, when you dare to sit in silence and confront the questions you've buried. Who am I really? What do I fear? What do I want? How to apply this truth? Give yourself moments of silence, even 10 minutes a day without distraction. Notice the discomfort. That's not emptiness. That's you finally meeting yourself. Nietzsche's wisdom here is simple, but life-changing. The one who avoids themselves remains a stranger forever, but the one who faces themselves awakens. Nietzsche didn't believe in absolute truths. He believed life is about perspectives. His famous line, "There are no facts, only interpretations." At first, this sounds extreme, but think about it. Every event in your life is filtered through perspective. A breakup can be interpreted as tragedy or liberation. Failure can be humiliation or education. Even suffering can be torment or transformation. The event is the same. What changes everything is the interpretation. Example: two people lose the same job. One says, "My life is over." The other says, "This is my chance to finally chase what I love." Same fact, different interpretation, completely different destiny. How to apply this truth. When life hits you, pause and ask, what interpretation am I choosing? And what new interpretation could empower me? Nietzsche's point isn't that truth doesn't exist. It's that we live by the meanings we give to things. Awakening means realizing you hold the power to rewrite the meaning of your experiences. Nietzsche's most famous line is simple: become who you are. But what does it mean? It means this: stop living by the masks, the herd, the borrowed morals, the illusions of comfort. Stop trying to be who the world wants you to be. Start uncovering the raw, authentic self beneath it all. This is the final and hardest truth. Awakening is not about becoming someone else. It's about finally daring to be yourself. Example: maybe you've always wanted to create, but you've buried it under practical expectations. Or maybe you've hidden your true personality behind politeness, afraid people wouldn't accept you. Nietzsche's challenge is to strip all that away and face your true self. How to apply this truth? Ask yourself, if no one judged me, if no one rejected me, who would I be? Then take small steps toward living that answer. Nietzsche believed this is the highest form of life: to become your own creator, your own truth, your own self. Not the mask, not the herd, not the lie, the self. So here we are, 18 truths of Nietzsche's human psychology. They are not easy, they are not comfortable, but that's the point. Nietzsche never wanted to make us comfortable. He wanted to wake us up. He wanted us to see that people wear masks, that power hides in every action, that suffering is a teacher, that resentment poisons the soul, that the herd weakens the individual, that meaning matters more than happiness, that love, freedom, morality, and even truth itself are more complex than we dare admit. And most of all, he wanted us to stop living by lies and to start becoming who we are. Now, here's my question for you. Which of these truths hit you the hardest? Was it the mask people wear, the poison of resentment, the courage to choose pain, or the final challenge, to become who you are? Pause, think, reflect, and then don't just nod and forget. Take one truth, just one, and apply it to your life this week. Watch how it changes the way you see others. Watch how it changes the way you see yourself. Because awakening doesn't happen all at once. It begins with a single step. So if this journey resonated with you, stay with us. There's so much more to explore about the human soul, and I promise you, each step will bring you closer to the life you were meant to live. Subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and most of all, dare to awaken, because the world doesn't need more masks. The world needs you.